Imagine a lamp that instead of batteries uses capacitors so that you can charge and discharge it hundreds of thousands of times without degradation. And the best part, the circuit's so efficient that you can charge it in seconds. So I've been experimenting with the SGR-L circuit ever since I came up with it 10 years ago. And I've been making minor improvements over the years, and they have all led to this SGR-L lamp prototype that you see here in this video. The capacitor bank charges in less than 30 seconds and gives you over an hour of usable light. I always get questions about the SGR-L circuit. What is it? How does it work? What does it do? We'll take a few moments now to go over the basic operation of the SGR-L circuit. When lighting the LED on a battery, as you see here on the right side of your screen, you need a fairly constant voltage of around 3.2 volts. If you go above that, you'll burn out the LED. You drop below, the LED turns off. So in this configuration, you have to do a ton of charging before you can even get the voltage up enough to light the LED. It's kind of like trying to fill a large swimming pool with a trickle from a garden hose. With the SGR-L circuit, we rapidly charge a capacitor up to a high voltage. Unlike the previous example with the battery that took forever to fill up, this is more like filling up a cup of water with a fire hose. The SGR-L is a self-regulating voltage booster circuit that allows the LEDs to remain brightly lit throughout a very wide voltage range. As the circuit rings, waves of voltage pulse through the LEDs. This flashes the LEDs at a high frequency, giving us a longer runtime using less energy. The current ringing through the LED coil is alternating, so if you build this circuit and you've got way too much current draw, try reversing the LEDs. This dramatically reduces the current draw required by the circuit. The potentiometer in the circuit is tuned until the frequency is so high that there is no noticeable flashing to the human eye. However, there is a high-pitched ringing sound. Later in the build, I wrap up the ferrite core in foam and close it inside the sealed container, at which point this ringing sound becomes practically inaudible. At this point in the video, I'm going to show some of the highlights from the build. I'm not going to provide an in-depth build guide video at this point. This is a Generation 1 prototype. Later, as I perfect it, I'll provide more details on the construction. If you've seen some of my older SGR-L videos or my Tesla torch videos, you'll know that prior to this, I had usually been just lighting 3 LEDs with the SGR-L circuit. So the first steps were to see whether or not I could drive large numbers of these LEDs with the SGR-L circuit while running off an electrolytic capacitor. This first bulb had 40 LEDs, and you can see here in this first test that it's starting to light my shop up a little bit. Not too bad for running on 16 volts with a 17 milliamp current draw. However, I knew that in order to get the performance I was seeking, I was going to have to do a lot better than this. It was time to jump to the next level and create a bulb with 144 LEDs. Soldering together these test bulbs is no easy task, and I want to give a shout out to my Patreons who encouraged me every step of the way. You guys are great. The first tests were very encouraging. I now had a lot more usable light. You can see here in this shot where this bulb is the only light source in my workshop that I'm starting to light up the distant corners of the workshop. This was very encouraging. I have a lux meter that lets me measure the light intensity. So you can see here at 20 volts, 52 milliamps, I'm getting a lot of usable light, but the current draw is way too high. I need to cut this down by at least half. Okay, so this video is to document an effect that I noticed on certain transistors. I've been testing well over 100 different transistors on this circuit, and some of them exhibit a strange behavior. Most of them, when I remove this clip from the electrolytic capacitors, they just immediately run down in voltage. So the voltage I'm measuring here is on the electrolytic capacitors. So I got 30 volts on those caps. Once certain transistors show this behavior. Watch when I remove the circuit. The light gets brighter and it goes up in voltage. The pitch changes and then it slowly comes back down. Now this transistor does not do it as strongly as the transistor that I first discovered this effect on. I only had one of those and it blew out yesterday. So now I'm just testing some of my other transistors, and none of them showed this effect except for this one right here. So it's not a very big effect on this transistor, but when the others come in that are same specs as the one I had yesterday, hopefully we'll see the effect. Yesterday I was getting 5 volts or more of climb after removing the power supply to the electrolytic capacitors. And very strange effect. I've never seen anything like that before. All the SJR-L circuits I've ever made, when you remove power to the capacitors, they just immediately run down, or they might hover for a while, but they always just run down. They never climb up in voltage like you see there. So very interesting, and I'll keep experimenting with this and see if I can't get to the bottom of it. I ordered another 1,000 of those transistors, and I definitely did see the effect again. The voltage would bounce up as high as 41 volts after removing the power supply from the electrolytic capacitors. Overall, the voltage would still go down, but it would bounce around a lot. It would drop back down to 31 volts, bounce up to 36, drop down to 27, bounce up to 28. Very strange behavior. At this point, I don't really know if the bouncing voltage effect is a good thing or a bad thing, but I was able to get the best performance ever with these new transistors in the SJR-L circuit. I also had a hunch that I could get better performance with this new coil arrangement. At this point, I'm not ready to go into all the build details in depth, but I do plan on providing a how-to-build video, as well as an updated SJR-L circuit reflecting all of the latest improvements in the near future. Keep an eye out at lasersaber.org. At this point, the performance was good enough that I felt confident in designing the housing for the project. In the future, I plan to redesign this as more individual pieces that bolt and screw together. I was barely able to get the internal components to fit in this single piece design. I've never seen a pull start power electricity generator, so everything I was doing here is breaking new ground. I really like the concept because it imparts a lot of energy very quickly, perfect for fast charging capacitors. I'll need more time and testing to figure out which parts hold up and which ones fail, but for now I'm very happy with this first prototype. Okay, so everything's put together. We got the supercapacitors over here, we got the transistor right here, and the pot core with the SJR coil wound inside there. So I'm going to encase this probably in some foam so it can't bounce around in here, and so it will be protected, and then we'll close this all up, finish this project up. Well, it's been quite the project, and I made a big mess making it, but it's all finished. So got a lot of light here in my shop. It's the only light source on in my shop right now. The SJR lamp, using the original SJR-L circuit with a few modifications to the coil and other things, but look at this. This is awesome. So I need to start doing some tests with it, some runtime tests, see how long it takes to charge and how long it'll run. But that's it. Pretty cool little device. All right, let's go out and start doing some testing. So I set it out here under the workshop eave where I've got my car parked, and it's lighting up this area very nicely. One thing I really like about this design is this telescoping light pole. That will allow me to set it at the height that I want, up to 8 feet, and position the light vertically. Okay, so I'm just carrying it around out here, kind of like you would do with a lantern. Walking around. Unlike the Tesla torch, it's lighting up the entire area around me, so that's pretty useful. Okay, so here it is at night out here in my yard. You know, this thing's gonna be great to take camping. You can really see a lot of use case for this. We're out camping. Hi, Lucky. Hi. You gonna wave? Wave. Good girl. So here's the SJR lamp in my house. It's the only light on in the house right now. You can see it really throws a lot of light around the place. So that is just awesome. Can't wait to take this camping. Very practical and functional device. This is a perfect lamp to have on hand for those times when the grid unexpectedly goes down. You could just take this out of a closet, crank it up a few times, and use it for the evening until the grid power is restored. This is one of those projects that, as I've thought about it over the last couple of years, I was never really sure if it would all come together and work. I wasn't sure if I could get the SJR-L circuit to produce enough usable light to light an entire room like this. Using a hand crank generator as the charge method was another unknown. Even though it was a really difficult build, and soldering those 144 LEDs is not something I'm looking forward to doing again anytime soon, I am so glad that I persevered with the project and brought it to completion. It's exceeded my wildest expectations. It creates enough light to dimly light my entire workshop or the downstairs of my house. It's a nice lamp to read next to, but the big question is, how long will it run on a charge? That is the next test. So after 20 to 30 seconds of charging, it ran for over 1 hour. And even though it was now in a dim nightlight mode, it still provided usable light, as you'll see here when I take it into a smaller space like my bathroom. It continued to run in this nightlight mode for about another hour. While I would not want to try reading next to this lamp in this dim mode, it was still somewhat useful for navigating my house in the night. It's amazing to think that with just a few poles on the pole starter, I could charge this thing right back up and have it in full bright intensity for another hour or so. That's the cool thing about the SJR lamp. Well, that's it for this video. Let's all keep experimenting.